Hey, today I want to talk to you about correct practicing. You know, way too many students I've had over the years will think of practicing as just sort of jam time. I'll say, hey, how much did you practice this week? Oh man, Dr. Ackerman, I played so much this week. It was a great week. I must have played, 10 hours, 12 hours, 20 hours. It was awesome. And I'd say, well, great, let's show me some of those chords I taught you to work on, some of those 2-5-1 voicings, or play some of those scales we were. Oh, I didn't have time to get to that. Well, what did you do? Oh, well, I was just working on that tune that, oh, you mean the same tune you've been playing for 5 years? Yeah, that was the one I was jamming. So, that's great that you're playing. Good for you. I mean, that's better than not playing at all, but that's not practicing. That's jamming. And I want to make sure we understand the difference, okay? Because my job is to try to make you into a better piano player, a better keyboard player, and that's really only going to come by what I call bench time. Putting your rear end on the bench and practicing, not just jamming. Jamming's great. You should make that part of what you do every week, but it's not what you do every time you sit down to get better on the keyboard. So let's break up the practicing procedure into 4 different steps, okay? First thing I'd like you to make sure you spend a little time doing is the pre-practice. Ask yourself, okay, what am I going to try to accomplish today? I know I need to get ready for my lesson in a couple of days, and I haven't really put enough time into these scales and these chords. And oh, I've got a gig this weekend. I'm supposed to play that wedding, so I really need to make sure I prepare that song that the bride asked me to play. And looking down the road a little ways, I want to become better on my synthesizer than I am on my piano, so I want to make sure I spend a little time this week on the synthesizer. So, plan out what you're going to do. Don't just make it a random assortment of things where you're bouncing around, because that's going to be an inefficient use of your time. If you've only got a half hour to practice, or maybe you even have an hour to practice, you want to get the absolute most out of that time, and planning out ahead of time what you're going to do is going to make the most efficient use of that time. Okay, now you're actually going to carry it out. You're going to sit down and you're going to do what you decided to do, and you're not going to let yourself be distracted. You're going to keep your phone somewhere away from you, right? You're going to keep all your digital distractions out of sight, out of mind. You're going to sit down, you're going to carry through with what you said. So for instance, a quick example of some practicing is, okay, I'm going to practice some major scales this week. 2 hands, hands together, a couple octaves. Maybe a minor scale. And then I'm going to go ahead and practice some harmony, maybe some arpeggios. Go through those as needed, maybe a diminished chord, who knows what I'm practicing on. And then maybe I'm going to do something more advanced with some finger technique. I've worked out ahead of time that my teacher's telling me to do, some 5-finger technical stuff. Work your way through that. Oh, then I'm working on some sort of advanced chord procedure where I'm teaching myself a new voicing. Run something through all 12 keys as needed. And then actually at the end of your practice, make sure you take some time for this. Kind of review if you did everything you had set out to do. And if you didn't, you ran out of time, for instance, because one thing just took more time than you realized, and something you had meant to get to you didn't get to, well then that goes on the top of your list for the next day's practice session, right? So maybe even make some notes ahead of time of what you're going to do for the next practice session. And one of the last things you want to do at your lessons is just make sure you do take a little time to jam a bit. See if you can apply some of the things you've been working on. Maybe you've been working on a blues scale, maybe you've been working on some chord voicings. So do take that moment at the end of your practice session and just loosen up, have a little time and jam out. I think it's time for me to do a little of that jamming at the end of my lesson here. So y'all have a good week, get to rocking.